You know, it's a funny thing. You go to bed one night, you're feeling perfectly fine. You wake up the next morning, and your knee makes a little click sound. A sound it definitely did not make yesterday. Or maybe you reach for the coffee pot and your back says, nope, not today. Today we're going to explore what it feels like to be a 90-year-old rusty hinge. And what's the reason we give? We have a neat little phrase for it. Wear and tear. We say it, we nod sagely, as if we've explained something profound. Oh yeah, my car's getting old. Wear and tear. This old bridge. Lots of wear and tear. My body, just wear and tear. But that's a terrible explanation, isn't it? It's a label, not an answer. A car is a hunk of metal and plastic. Its parts rub against each other and they literally wear down. But you are not a car. Your body isn't a static object that just gets worn out. It's a dynamic, self-healing, mind-bogglingly complex system that is constantly, every single second, rebuilding itself. You are replacing your skin cells, your stomach lining, even parts of your bones. You are not the same physical person you were 7 years ago. So if you're constantly rebuilding yourself, why aren't you rebuilding yourself perfectly? Why does the new version have a clicky knee? What if I told you that the reason for that click, the reason for that ache, has to do with the single most fundamental, inescapable, and frankly inconvenient law in the entire universe? A law that dictates that everything from stars and galaxies to a sandcastle on the beach is in a constant, relentless one-way journey from a state of order to a state of, well, a mess. Your body isn't wearing out. Your body is in a magnificent lifelong war against cosmic chaos, and those little aches and pains, that's just the sound of the front lines. Now that seems like a much more interesting problem than simple wear and tear, doesn't it? So, let's take a look at what this war is all about. We have this idea, this term we throw around, wear and tear. We use it to explain everything. Why your favorite t-shirt gets thin, why the tires on your car go bald, and why one morning your knee decides to make a sound like popping bubble wrap. It sounds sensible enough. Things get used, they get worn out. Simple. But here's the problem with that. You are not a t-shirt. You are not a car. A car is just a pile of metal and plastic bolted together. When its parts rub against each other, they physically grind away. The car has no ability to fix itself. If it did, you'd wake up one morning and find the scratch on your bumper had just vanished and your tires had grown new tread. That would be something, wouldn't it? Your body, on the other hand, does exactly that. It's not a static object slowly eroding. It's a dynamic, raging, self-rebuilding hurricane of activity. Right now, as you sit here, you are making new skin, new stomach lining, new blood cells. You are constantly breaking down old, damaged tissue and replacing it with new stuff. You are in a perpetual state of renovation. So here's the real puzzle. If you're constantly rebuilding yourself, why aren't you rebuilding yourself perfectly? Why does the new model of you that's being assembled today have a slightly achier back than the model from last year? Why isn't the renovation process making you brand new every time? The idea of wear and tear just doesn't explain this. It falls apart as soon as you look at it. To get to the real answer, we have to talk about something much bigger, something universal. Let's start with a simple thought experiment. Imagine your bedroom. You spend an hour cleaning it. Everything is in its place. The books are stacked. The clothes are in the closet. It is in a state of perfect, beautiful order. Now you leave. You shut the door, and you don't come back for a month. What do you find when you open the door? Does the dust on the floor spontaneously arrange itself into neat piles in the corner? Do the tiny vibrations from the street cause the books to straighten themselves on the shelf? Of course not. You come back to a room that is slightly more chaotic, a layer of dust, a cobweb, a general sense of disarray. The universe has a natural, undeniable, one-way tendency to go from a state of order to a state of disorder. We have a name for this tendency. We call it entropy. The reason for this isn't some mysterious force of messiness. It's just simple, brutal probability. For your room to be neat, every single item has to be in one, and only one specific place. There is only one asterisk way for it to be perfectly neat. But how many ways can it be messy? Billions upon billions. A book can be on the floor, under the bed, on the chair. The dust can be anywhere. The number of possible disordered states is astronomically larger than the number of ordered states. The universe isn't trying to be messy, it just stumbles into messiness because it's the most probable state to be in. Now think about your body. Your body is the perfectly neat room. It is a system of such staggering improbable order, it makes a clean bedroom look like a garbage dump. Think about a single protein molecule. It's a long chain of amino acids that has to be folded into one, and only one, exquisitely specific three-dimensional shape to do its job. If it folds into any of the other billion possible shapes, it's useless junk or even dangerous. Think about a strand of your DNA. Billions of base pairs arranged in a precise sequence, a blueprint for everything you are. The odds of that sequence just happening by chance are essentially zero. Your very existence is an act of defiance against probability. You are a walking, talking, thinking monument to low entropy. You are a glitch in the universal law that says things should fall apart and become simple. And this improbable state of order has a price. A huge one. Maintaining it, fighting back against that relentless slide into disorder, requires a constant input of energy. You don't get to be this complicated for free. The universe charges a tax for the privilege of being ordered, and that tax is relentless. This fight is your metabolism. Every time you eat an apple, you are taking in a small, ordered packet of low-entropy energy. Your body then burns that energy, not just to move around, but to power the endless war against chaos. It uses that energy to find the misfolded protein and either refold it or destroy it. It uses that energy to proofread the copies of your DNA and fix the errors. It uses that energy to command an army of immune cells to hunt down and destroy an invading bacterium, which is essentially an agent of foreign chaos. This isn't a metaphor. It is a literal description of what is happening inside you every second of every day. You are at war. When you are young, you are winning this war decisively. Your supply lines are robust. Your repair crews are fast and ruthlessly efficient. Your energy budget is so large that you can fight off chaos on 1,000 fronts and still have plenty of energy left over to run around, learn new things, and grow. A bit of damage happens, a few cells go haywire, and your internal army crushes the rebellion instantly. Order is maintained, but this war goes on for decades, and no army can fight forever without its resources starting to thin. Your repair crews get a little slower. The proofreading of your DNA misses an error now and then. A misfolded protein might get overlooked and be left to float around, causing trouble. These aren't catastrophic defeats, they are tiny, microscopic, insignificant little skirmishes that you lose. The problem is, they add up. The war against chaos isn't lost in one big glorious battle. It's lost in a million tiny ignored retreats. A little bit of unrepaired damage to the collagen in your knee. A few more cells in an artery wall that have become inflamed and haven't been properly cleared away. A handful of neurons that have accumulated too much junk protein to function correctly. Each of these is a tiny pocket of disorder, a foothold that chaos has gained inside your fortress. And these pockets of disorder create more disorder around them. It's a feedback loop. A little bit of plaque in an artery makes the blood flow more turbulent, which causes more damage, which allows more plaque to form. A little bit of stiffness in a joint makes you move awkwardly, which puts stress on another joint, which starts its own cycle of damage. So when you feel that new ache or hear that new click, you are not experiencing wear and tear. You are not a machine grinding itself down. You are feeling the bulletin from the front lines. You are sensing a tiny patch of territory that your internal army has been forced to cede to the relentless invading force of universal chaos. It's the cumulative result of trillions of tiny battles, where your side is now very slowly beginning to lose ground. Imagine you have a photocopier, a really good one. You take a beautiful original document, a master blueprint with crisp black ink on clean white paper. You make a copy, it looks perfect. You can't even tell it apart from the original. Now here's the game. You're going to throw away the original and make your next copy from the copy you just made. Then you'll make a copy of that copy. And so on. 1,000 times. 1,000,000 times. What does that millionth copy look like? You know what it looks like. It's not a clean blueprint anymore. The letters are a little fuzzy, a little thicker. There's a gray, shadowy background that wasn't there before. Maybe there are some black specks, some random toner smudges where there should be white space. The information is probably still readable, but the quality, the fidelity has degraded. It's a fuzzy, noisy version of the pristine original. This is not a metaphor. This is a precise description of what is happening inside your body every single moment. Your cells are dividing. One cell becomes two. This is how you grow, how you heal a cut, how you replace the lining of your stomach after it's been worn down by acid. Every time a cell divides, it has to make a complete copy of its master blueprint, its DNA, and then the process repeats. The new cells make copies of their copies. When you're first conceived, you start with that one pristine original blueprint, The first few copies are perfect, the first few thousand are still fantastic. But you are made of trillions of cells, and some of them have been playing this copy of a copy game for decades. The cellular copy machine is astonishingly good, but it's not perfect. It's the best copy machine in the universe, but it makes mistakes. Think about your DNA as a set of encyclopedias with billions of letters. Every time a cell divides, it has to retype all of those billions of letters in just a few hours. To help with this, it has an incredible proofreading system. As it types, another part of the machinery follows along, checking for typos. When it finds one, it snips it out and puts the right letter in. It's better than any spell checker we've ever designed. It's almost perfect, but almost is the key word here. Every now and then, a typo slips through, a tiny, insignificant error. In a blueprint, billions of letters long, what's one wrong letter? Usually, nothing. It might land in a section that doesn't code for anything important, a bit of junk DNA. But the problem is that this cell with its tiny typo is now the new, original for all its descendants. When it divides, it will faithfully copy its own typo, and maybe add a new one of its own. Over 50 years, through thousands of generations of cell divisions, these tiny, insignificant errors start to add up. The blueprint gets a little fuzzier. The instructions are no longer as crisp as they once were. But there's another, even stranger problem. It's a feature of the copy machine itself. Imagine that your photocopier can't copy all the way to the very edge of the paper. With every copy, it misses the last millimeter. The first copy is missing a tiny sliver from the end. The second copy is missing 2 slivers. And so on. At first, this doesn't matter because the edges of your blueprints have useless, repetitive nonsense written on them like a long string of ASTF, ASTF. These protective ends on your chromosomes are called telomeres. They're like the plastic tips on a shoelace that keep it from unraveling. Every time a cell copies itself, those telomeres get a little bit shorter. The copy machine shaves off a tiny piece. For a long time, this is fine. You're just losing the protective junk, but after 50, 60, or 70 years of copying, you run out of junk. The copy machine starts cutting into the actual blueprint. It starts erasing real important instructions. At this point, the cell has a choice. It can recognize that its blueprint is now damaged and self-destruct. This is a noble sacrifice to prevent a faulty cell from continuing. Or it can enter a state of retirement. It stops dividing. It just hangs around. We call these senescent cells. These retired cells are not harmless old-timers. They are grumpy. They sit in your tissues and release a constant stream of inflammatory signals like a disgruntled retiree yelling at all the active young cells around them. This chronic low-grade inflammation caused by these grumpy cells is one of the master dials of aging. It contributes to arthritis, to heart disease, to almost every age-related ailment you can name. Now add one more layer to the problem. The copy machine isn't operating in a clean room. It's in the real world. Someone might splash a drop of coffee on the blueprint you're trying to copy. A ray of sunlight might hit the page and fade some of the ink. This is happening to your DNA all the time. The very act of breathing, of using oxygen to create energy, creates byproducts, free radicals, that are like tiny little molecular grenades bouncing around inside your cells. They smash into your DNA, causing damage. UV light from the sun does it. Certain chemicals in your food can do it. Your cells have emergency repair crews, fantastic little molecular handymen that run around looking for this kind of damage. They can snip out a damaged section and patch it up. They are incredibly busy and incredibly good at their jobs, but they can be overwhelmed, and sometimes they miss a spot. So now you have 3 things happening at once. The blueprint is accumulating typos from the copying process. The protective edges of the blueprint are being worn away with every copy, and the blueprint itself is getting hit with random damage from the environment. This is why fuzziness is the perfect word. It's not one clean error. It's a slow, creeping accumulation of noise. After many decades, your body is no longer a collection of cells with identical, perfect blueprints. It's a mosaic. Some cells are still in great shape, almost like the original. Others have a few typos. Some have dangerously short shoelaces. Others have coffee stains and patched up sections. And a tissue or an organ made from these fuzzy, noisy, mixed-quality cells simply cannot function as well as one made from pristine cells. The instructions for building a new collagen molecule might be smudged, so you get collagen that is stiff and brittle, not flexible and strong. That's why your skin wrinkles and your joints ache. The instructions for making a neurotransmitter might be a little off, so your brain doesn't fire as quickly. The blueprint for a muscle cell is a little degraded, so it can't contract with the same force. So we've painted a pretty grim picture, haven't we? A constant war against chaos that you're slowly losing, a cellular copy machine that gets fuzzier and fuzzier over time. It sounds hopeless. It sounds like we should all just give up, find a comfortable chair, and wait for the inevitable slide into general decrepitude. But that's a terrible way to look at it. If a physicist sees a problem, they don't just throw up their hands and say, well, that's the law. No, they get curious. They say, okay, that's the rule of the game. Now, how can we play it better? The law of entropy might be the house rule, but there's a lot of room to maneuver within that rule. Think of it this way. You're the captain of a wooden ship on a vast, endless ocean. The ocean has a current, a powerful, relentless tide that is always pulling you toward a specific destination. Let's call it Disorder Island. You cannot stop the tide. You cannot reverse the current. That's the law of the ocean. The tide is entropy. Seeing this, the foolish captain despairs. He lets go of the wheel and says, the tide is too strong, I give up. His ship drifts. It gets battered by waves. The sails tear. The wood rots. And he arrives at the island a wreck. The wise captain, however, accepts the tide. He says, I understand. I can't fight the ocean itself. But this ship, this is mine to command. He can't stop the tide, but he can learn to build a better boat. He can patch the leaks, strengthen the mast, learn to trim the sails to use the wind, and navigate around the worst of the storms. He may still be pulled by the same current, but he's going to have a much better journey, and his ship will be in far better shape when it finally gets where it's going. You are that wise captain, your body is your boat, and you have an enormous amount of control over how seaworthy that boat is. The problem is, we often act like foolish captains because we don't understand what makes the boat stronger. Let's start with a funny idea. The importance of good stress. We think of stress as a bad thing, something to be avoided. And chronic stress, worrying about your job, sitting in traffic, is absolutely corrosive. It's like leaving your boat tied up in salt water to rust. But there are other kinds of stress, short, intentional bursts of stress that act like a drill for your ship's crew. Imagine your body's repair mechanisms are a crew of sailors. If the sea is always calm and the weather is always perfect, what happens to the crew? They get lazy. They forget how to tie knots. They don't practice patching the sails. They're not ready for a storm. But if you, the captain, occasionally take them out in rough weather for drills, they get sharp. They get efficient. They get stronger. This is a real biological principle. It's called hormesis. It's the idea that small, manageable doses of stress trigger a powerful adaptive response that makes the whole system more resilient. Exercise is the most obvious example. What is lifting a weight? It is intentionally damaging your muscle fibers. You are creating tiny microscopic tears. You are creating disorder. But your body's response is not just to patch the tears. It says, whoa, the captain is putting us under strain. We need to be ready for this next time. So it rebuilds the muscle, not just to its previous state, but slightly stronger than before. It builds a better boat. The same goes for your cellular power plants, the mitochondria. Exercise is a demand for energy. It forces your body to become more efficient at producing it. It tells the old sputtering power plants to retire and encourages the creation of new high-performance ones. This idea of good stress goes even further. Exposing your body to heat, like in a sauna, or to cold, like in a cold shower, is a mild shock. Your body doesn't like it. It triggers ancient survival circuits, which in turn activate a whole cascade of cleanup and repair processes, telling those lazy sailors to get to work. Now let's talk about the crew's downtime. What if the sailors were constantly being asked to load new cargo onto the ship 24 hours a day without a break? They'd never have time to swab the decks, patch the hull, or get rid of the garbage accumulating below deck. This is what many of us do to our bodies. We are constantly eating. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, dessert. We are always loading cargo. This means our cells are always in storage mode, busy processing the fuel we're giving them. They never get a chance to switch over to cleanup mode. That cleanup mode has a name, autophagy. It literally means self-eating. It's your body's internal recycling program. When you give your digestive system a rest, your cells get the signal, no new cargo coming in. Time to take out the trash. They start hunting for old misfolded proteins, damaged mitochondria, and all the other junk that's accumulating. They break it all down and recycle the parts. It's the single most important way your body deals with the fuzziness we talked about. It's how you get rid of the grumpy, retired cells before they start causing trouble. Giving your body this break through what people now call intermittent fasting or just by not snacking between meals is like giving your crew a dedicated shift just for maintenance. It's not about starvation, it's about giving your body the time it needs to perform its own essential repairs. Of course, a good captain also cares about the quality of his supplies. If you need to patch a hole in your hull, you can use rotted, flimsy wood or you can use strong, solid oak. Both are wood, but the result will be vastly different. The food you eat are the raw materials for your constant self-repair. You can eat highly processed food full of sugar and weird fats. That's the flimsy wood. It gives you calories, but it also promotes inflammation. It's like bringing rust onto your ship. Sugar in particular is nasty stuff. It can directly damage your proteins in a process that is basically a slow, low-temperature caramelization. You are literally making your insides brittle. Or you can eat real food. Vegetables, quality proteins, healthy fats. These are the solid oak. They come packed with the vitamins, minerals, and all the other little things, the specific nuts and bolts and sealants that your repair crews desperately need to do their jobs correctly. You can't ask your crew to build a strong ship out of garbage. Finally, the wise captain knows when to let his crew rest. The most important repair work on a ship happens when it's quiet. The same is true for your body. Sleep is not downtime. It is the primary maintenance shift. It's when your brain actively cleanses itself of the junk proteins that accumulate during the day. It's when your body focuses on repair. Treating sleep as a luxury you can afford to cut back on is like telling your night shift maintenance crew to just go home. You can get away with it for a night or two, but do it consistently and your boat will start falling apart much, much faster.